Hey everyone, Jeremy here, and welcome back to the latest episode of the Command Your Brand Show. First, if you guys are new to the show or new to this channel, hit the subscribe button below and give us a like, give us a comment, share us with your family and friends. It helps us to make a bigger impact out there. And I'm very interested to have the conversation we're going to have today, because I think really for a lot of business owners, one of the number one things that stops you from scaling is the ability to actually have a team behind you. Because for a lot of people, especially in the beginning, it can be hard to start. And then later on, it can be hard to scale. Our guest today is Brittany Brewer, and she is with a company called FreeUp that is helping other companies to expand with freelancers. And I'm really excited to dive into things. So Brittany, thanks for hanging out with me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
So Brittany, as we were recording this interview, I'm actually here in New Jersey where it's 2 p.m, but you're actually in Europe where it's 9 p.m. because you live the digital nomad lifestyle as you're doing this. So tell us a little bit about your story, Brittany.
Yeah, for sure. I'm currently in Europe right now. Of course, FreeUp, we're largely made up of freelancers, but we have a home office in St. Petersburg. I myself have been traveling since right before the pandemic hit. My husband and I actually converted an old school bus into a tiny home. So,
that's cool. My brother-in-law had one of those like converted vans, and he was like traveling around the country skiing. So I understand.
Yeah, van life for sure. So just during kind of late 2019 into 2020, we had the school bus or the schoolie, and we really got into the digital nomad lifestyle and started working from home and just traveling. Did that for a while, traveling across the US, and then just kind of felt like it was time to maybe explore things internationally after things started to open up a little bit, things started to calm down. We've been doing that for the past year. We've been abroad and traveled to quite a few different countries since December, and we're going to be heading back to the US though in about a month.
Very cool. So I guess like looking at what FreeUp does, the thing I want to hit on first is I guess a lot of people hear about the ideas of virtual assistants and things like that. What's different with a freelancer versus a VA or versus using like I'm trying to think of that or like what is the other site called? My brain has suddenly stopped working, Brittany. Like Upwork or something like that. So what is the difference between like an Upwork or like even working with a virtual assistant or whatever? How does that vary from working with a freelancer and doing that on like FreeUp?
Yeah, a couple of different points there. So just to kind of start in on like VA versus freelancer, a VA or virtual assistant. Sometimes the term is used interchangeably, but technically, freelancing can encompass any number of things. It can be virtual admin work. It can be something as simple as doing a logo design as a freelancer, not as a W-2 employee for someone.
Sure.
As far as the difference between Upwork and like Upwork or a Fiverr and FreeUp goes, there's quite a few differences and quite a few similarities, to be fully transparent. We're all freelancer hiring platforms. We are the vehicle that connects clients and freelancers together. But what sets FreeUp apart, and I think that it's sort of the thing that makes us easier for clients, is first of all, our pre-vetting process. The freelancers that come into the FreeUp network, they all go through a one-on-one interview, face-to-face, just the same way you and I are right now. They're tested on terms of use and best practices. We do some preliminary fraud detection, identity verification, and then we're auditing performance constantly. And those are just measures that you don't really see on some of the larger platforms. And then we have 24/7 support. Every single client that comes through can get on the phone with an actual person. Don't have to push a bunch of buttons and get a robot. You can actually speak to someone on the phone or even do a Zoom call, just like we're doing. It's just one-on-one concierge-like support that you don't find at some of the other hiring platforms. On sort of the other end, though, Upwork and Fiverr, they do boast that they have, million plus freelancers. We don't have that quantity, but we will continue to stand by. We are quality over quantity, 100%.
So let me ask you this, because I think for a lot of people, they have the idea of it would be great to have help, but they don't really know where to start, or they don't know like how to bring that person on. So I guess when we're looking at, because there's kind of different levels in your business journey, right? Let's start with somebody that's newer. So this
Yeah.
person, has a business. It's maybe them and one other person. It's a little bit smaller. What things should they be looking at in the beginning, and how could they utilize freelancers to help them with that?
Yeah, it happens time and time again. Obviously we get people who come in and they know what they want. They've, worked on other freelancer hiring platforms. They come in, they're ready to go. But the real, at least passion for me, is the people who don't know, they don't know what they don't know. They come in and they say, "Hi, I'm drowning. I have no idea why I'm drowning, but I know it's happening." And they'll say things to the effect of, I really have no idea what I need help with. I just know that I need help. So I like to get really grassroots with it when I'm doing a consultation with someone. And I just say, okay, do you have a pen? Do you have paper? Let's write this out. Like, what are the things that you're pulling your hair out about? And just getting those things, I think just visually kind of writing them down and being like, okay, well, it's not as bad as I think it is, But something as simple as my inbox is completely out of control, or I have tons of data and I have no idea what to do with it. I have 1,000 leads and nothing's happening with them. Those are things that are kind of like stored in the client's mind or in the customer's mind, but they don't really know how to get that out. So the first step is really just identifying those small tasks and being like, okay, this is simple. I just need to get somebody in here to do it. So let's figure out how to do that. Just, kind of getting the wheels turning on what needs to happen.
And let me ask you this, I guess for like a larger size business, like what should we be looking at? Like, let's say we have a team, we're a little overwhelmed, but we're like, I can't really bring on somebody full time. Like, what things do you look at maybe unloading or getting help with there as, you're getting a growing business?
Yeah. Well, I'll give a good example. Recently, we've had a lot of people coming in from the med spa, like aesthetic, healthcare, health and wellness space.
Oh,
And
cool.
yeah. These are brick and mortar businesses. They have people that are working in the office. They have a team already in place, but they're growing and they're still finding that they need assistance. So it's sort of the same as what I said for somebody coming in new. We need to identify what you need. And in the case of, an established business, it's usually not something as small as my inbox is getting out of control. It's usually something like, I'm ready to implement SEO into my website. I'm ready to upgrade the website because it's from 2005 and it looks pretty terrible.
Oh, dear God.
Yeah, like I'm ready to start doing some marketing stuff. So usually when it's an established business, we're talking a little bit more high level, but just getting it outside of having somebody in the office 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. These are still things that you can outsource with a freelancer. You don't need to bring somebody on coming in every day, 9 to 5 for this kind of stuff.
So let me ask you this then. I think the struggle for a lot of people too is you mentioned, kind of the idea of somebody like, I know that I need help. I don't know where I need it. And I know for myself, like one of the really important things is like kind of the SOPs I have written up, the standard operating procedures. And I think a lot of people may not initially have those when they bring on a freelancer. So I'm curious, when you're trying to start working with a new freelancer and maybe it's a new process for you or something like that, do you kind of have any like best experience on how to handle that process, like starting to work with a freelancer? Like, what do you think you should be looking at, what processes should look like, things like that?
Yeah, for sure. We have like one of the things that we offer to our clients is a templated, what we call it an SOW or a scope of work. And it doesn't have to be, I think that the thing that gets people caught up a lot is they think it needs to be this grandiose thing. They have to have every little minute thing laid out. And that's great if you can do that. But if you can't, having something templated can really help. And even having like, what are the KPIs that the freelancer needs to meet? And then the client might say, well, how do I even identify that? And I can say something to the effect of, all right, John, you're spending X amount of hours on this a week, right? Okay, so does it really make sense for you to hire somebody and it's going to take them longer to be doing it? Probably not. So that's a great place to start. Let's get somebody in there that can at least do it at take the same amount of time that you are taking. And that's a great metric to start at when you're creating a standard operating procedure. And then other things like making sure that you have clear communication outlined. Not every client likes to communicate via Zoom. Some of them like to onboard their freelancers into a Slack or use a Trello board. So having all of that clear communication up front and just written out for the freelancer, just little things like that, it's a great place to start.
So let me ask you this, I'm sure you've seen it all, good, bad, indifferent. Where do people go wrong when hiring a freelancer? What are the mistakes people make? What are the things they do wrong, and how can we, not make those same mistakes?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it varies, but some of the common things that come up when we do see issues, it's going to be not having a clear scope of work. And this is sort of what happens when a client comes in and they don't know what they don't know. You have somebody who signs up for the platform, they get in and they put in a job request, but they've never hired a freelancer before. Maybe they've never hired anyone before and their business is brand new. So they come in and they will create a request and try to get paired with somebody and hire. They want to bring on a freelancer, but they don't know how to communicate effectively with what they even need. So
right.
A good fix for that is having them speak to somebody on the FreeUp team. We have an account management team that will hop on a call with anyone for free and say, before you get this request in, before you get matched with a freelancer, let's have a quick chat so we can make sure you're conveying your needs appropriately to the freelancer, and we're making sure that we're getting you the right person. So I would say that's a big problem that can happen. But another thing, we stress this a lot. We have a pre-vetting process. We go through sort of the tedious stuff of, is this a real person? Do their skills match up with what their resume says? You can vet for all of that. When it comes down to the client and the freelancer, though, it starts to become more about personality, because on paper, the freelancer can look great, but if the personality isn't there for you and for your project, it's probably not going to work out. And we say this time and time again, and our top clients say this. You can train anybody to use Excel to do this, that, and the other, but you can't really train a personality type. So that's one thing that we really try to push. Make sure that you're getting on for an interview, chat with the freelancer, get to know them a little bit before you make your hire.
That's a really, really good point, actually, because I know even that's as a business owner, that's one of the biggest things I've dealt with is we've hired some really, on paper, great people, and they have achievements, and it's great. But at the same time, we have a certain personality as a company and a certain, thought process as a brand, and you do have to have somebody that is on the same page with you, because you have to be aligned, right? Not have people running in opposite directions, because it's not fair to the freelancer, and it's also not fair to the business owner.
Exactly. Yeah, it's definitely something that it's not just something that we say. It's something that our clients will report back to us. That is a hardship that you might face up front, but just taking a little bit of extra time to make sure that person that you're going to bring on is the right fit, it's going to be worth it in the long run.
So let me ask you this. What about, I'm sure for people listening, you're like, well, can I afford a freelancer? So I guess what kind of outlay are we looking at, to maybe start out, and then I'm sure you can scale up, but that's one part of it. The other part about it is how do you pay a freelancer? Do you have to go, sign up with a payroll company, or what does that look like?
Yeah. So for the first half, freelancers on the FreeUp platform, they start in at $5 per hour. And that includes our fees. So you mentioned Upwork earlier. They have sort of a sliding scale. Things can get a little bit messy. We have a fee. It's a 20% with a $2 minimum. So that's looped into the price you pay. So if you hire a freelancer at $5 an hour, you're paying $5 an hour. And that's for just general VA work. That's where that price starts out. And those freelancers are going to be international, for example, someone from the Philippines. Right. As far as how you pay them, different platforms have different methods. But for us, what we do is we process all the payments. So the client is paying FreeUp directly, and then we pay the freelancer. And so they can either put in a credit card, or they can use link their bank account. In some situations, people will use PayPal, but generally for our clients based in the US, it's going to be a credit card or just linking their bank account. It's pretty straightforward.
That makes a ton of sense. And I'm curious too, obviously you're not a tax accountant, but my first thing that comes to my head, Should we is there paperwork and stuff we're going to be filing too, or does FreeUp help with that sort of thing as well?
Yeah, that's a question that we get a lot. Legally,
well, I'm
of
just
course,
curious because the first thing that comes to mind is 1099s, all that fun stuff.
Exactly. So of course I can't offer any tax advice, but what I can
Right.
tell you is there's nothing that the client has to file for the freelancer. The freelancers will take care of their own taxes. We have a W-9 that we can issue to the client, of course, with all of our info. And then our accounting team is amazing. They are actually comprised of some freelancers as well, which is super cool. But what the accounting team can do is they can give a summary of everything the client has spent for the calendar year, for the quarter, and send it over. So if the client wants to, take a look at that, give it to their accountant, do whatever they need to do with taxes, we can assist in pretty much every way possible. But they don't have to file any paperwork for the freelancer is the long short of it.
So let me ask you this then, because I think the work world's kind of changing a lot right now, Brittany. I guess how do you see freelancers fitting into, how the work world is changing? Because it's changing dramatically. Even yourself, you're traveling all over the world while working. So I guess how do you see kind of the future of work fitting into the freelance economy?
Yeah, that's a loaded question.
Sorry.
It's funny because I think that it's different for everybody. I mean, you have people, even Elon Musk saying people need to get back in the office. And in some situations, that's true. It does help to have people in the office. Camaraderie is great, but there are certain things that can just be done remotely. And especially for a solopreneur, a starting business trying to scale up financially, it just makes sense to bring on a freelancer. Having somebody that can just be paid for the work that they're doing when they're doing it financially makes sense. It helps small businesses scale. Not having to bring somebody on full time, a W-2 employee, you're paying for benefits, time off, such and such. There is a place for that, but for a lot of the roles that we fill in FreeUp, it just makes sense to do it freelance.
Well, I've really enjoyed this conversation, Brittany. For people listening, if they want to find out more about you, if they want to find out more about Meetup, how are they going to do that?
Yeah, so actually, if anyone wants to head over to freeuppod.com, we've got some great resources for you guys. First and foremost, we have a $50 credit, which is up to 10 hours of work with a freelancer. Wow. But yeah, even more importantly, though, we have some really good resources like our outsourcing blueprint. It's normally $299, but we're going to offer it for free to people listening to the podcast. So if they just head over to freeuppod.com, they can sign up for that.
Very cool. Brittany Brewer, thank you so much for hanging out with me today.
Thanks, Jeremy.